Welcome to the IT advisory video for desktop imaging. Now, desktop imaging, again, this is going to be on the IT entry-level positions or tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. It is going to be that desktop support side. It doesn't matter what level you're going to be working on. Most of the time you work with the system administrators also when they create something on the server. Maybe they will create a service or they will deploy a server a software on the server, and they will do all that stuff for you, and then they will teach you, okay, how do you use it, how do you use this software, or how do you use whatever you're using. But in some environments they may want you to already know this stuff. So I have already shared a lot right here, and these are open source, some are free, some are built in. Now we also need to just first look at it, that why it is important. As you can see from here, responsible for this is a help desk position right now. This is IT support position, and many of these positions have the same requirements. Responsible for imaging, re-imaging, all desktop, not a VDI. This is not a virtual type of environment. This is actually a physical environment where you are deploying images to other computers, or maybe your staff is having an issue and then you need to have some kind of backup and restore that image. We're not talking about just going to the computer and installing an operating system. This is actually you have installed the operating systems, and then you use some type of softwares to capture every single thing that you have done, and then to save your time. And someone call you today that my operating system is corrupted, I cannot get into this operating system. So for that, you do not need to go back and install the whole operating system from scratch. You can just use the image, because that will save you time. Then there needs to be a ways for you to update your images, because if you take, let's say, an image 1 year ago, then there are many updates that happen. Maybe you install new softwares and things like that. Then you need some way to update your images also. So as you can see, this is also an important interview questions. And recently someone told me that they were asked, do you know WDS, or do you know any other imaging tools? Can you explain something about imaging? Because they want to know this experience. They don't want to be responsible for 40 computers coming next week, and then if you're brand new to this term, they have to really teach you from scratch. So if somebody is looking for your hands-on skills, they will test you on something like this, because a lot of companies get, like, every 3 years, 2 years, they get new computers from Dell, HP, or any other places, and then it's going to be your job to actually upgrade all these machines, and then also do like some type of quick deployments. Maybe you had some issues with the updates, and now you have to do things really quickly. So they will not want you to go to each computer and start installing it manually. You gotta have something different than just manual installation. So in this advisory video, I will suggest you to go over all these, the one that I have shared, but then there are many other ones that a lot of people really know this in the market. Like, for example, with Windows environment, this is the lab that I'm going to really suggest to you. This is a full lab on a desktop infrastructure. This is going to give you a lot of experience implementing a desktop infrastructure lab. Plan images, capture images, maintain images. Now this is covering what? Windows deployment services. Everyone will know this term. When you call them, they're going to say, do you know WDS? Have you worked on WDS images or anything like that? If they're a Windows environment. If they're not Windows environment, they might be using something else, but like I said, our courses are mostly towards this area. So you will see something like a combination. Maybe they will say, no, we're using another tool like your backup, we're using Fog, we're using Clonezilla, we're using Semantic, or we are using some others imaging software. And most of the time when they use a third-party imaging software, when you have experience with like the lab one, like WDS, then they will understand it and they will respect that also, because then they know you know something a little bit more than just a normal imaging tool, like where you plug a USB in one computer, take an image in a USB, and then you restore it from that USB. That is an imaging too, but it's really like not at this level. And then this not only covers this, it also covers another big one, deployment using System Center 2012 Configuration Manager. So if you use these two features right here in this lab, talk about these two, this is going to make a big difference when someone asks you something about imaging, because it is very advanced, but at the same time you are going to learn some really cool stuff. Plan images, captures images, maintain images. Maintaining meaning like you need to maintain those same images that you took. Design a deployment method. Now it's actually teaching you how to really deploy a massive deployments. Implement in the deployment infrastructure, implement light touch deployment, design and implement user state migrations, implement a zero touch deployment. These are the things that you are going to come across at some point. Now it really depends on your job too, because sometimes you work for an organization where there are like 400 users, and you may want to keep images like, you know, for specific models. So one, if you have one image for one model, then the rest is like, you know, a little bit manual work where you back up their software from data, from documents, from the documents and documents folder, and images and other things like that. But you may be working for a company that will only hire you to do these kind of projects, meaning you're going to go out to some government office and they will have like a massive deployments going on, and then they will want you to set up a server like really quickly, and then take an image and deploy it, and that saves you a lot of time. And then you may be working for a company that will be doing some kind of trainings per week, like for example jobskillshare.org, we have trainings almost every week, and we need to deploy something like images more like that. But it is a similar concept that when anywhere you go, they're gonna have something like this. So this is why they will ask you questions about, do you know anything about deployments, do you know anything about image deployments and things like that. So in this lab, everything is covered right here. Really good lab, you should take it. Now when you finish this lab, you can also go back to CompTIA A+. In that lab they also have like something like installing Windows. This is like a manual installation if you don't know how to do that. And then you can also do the part 2, which is like again deployment services. But I would recommend you to go with that other lab, the big lab, because this is just one section talking about installing deploying images using WDS, but the whole lab is towards deployments. So I hope this is a really good lab for you to learn more about imaging, in addition to what we have, because like I said, these are open source and that are more like being used in a big company. So you should really do both just to get everything. I mean, sometimes you may work for a company and you may realize that this is too big for us to implement, or maybe you don't have access to the servers and things like that. Then you may consider doing something like this for yourself. Thank you.